Hi, y'all. I'm Isaac, or Zonk, and what you guys just saw was a collection of instruments that I've been creating for the past 6 months, that I've kind of like spent most of my life on. These are thank you. And I wanted to talk just a little bit about like my thought process and how I made them, and go over a very small demo. So this is, if this works, yes. Nice. I think it's backwards. Oh no, it's nice. Okay. I'm gonna mirror my screen real fast. So these works, which I'm entitling Kinetic Synesthesia, is my goal in combining movement, sound, and visuals all into like one concise thing. I was kind of inspired to do this because I found out about this program, which I'll get into a little bit later, called TouchDesigner. And I also had been making music for a long time and was really into music, and I wanted to kind of get into the visual portion. And I ended up discovering this hand recognition model that detects where my hand is through a camera detection. And so I was like, how can I combine all these things? I've seen music videos which combine sound and audio really well. That's done super well in a lot of circumstances. And I've also seen things where people combine movement and visuals, but I've never really seen it all done together, and that's what my goal was kind of to do. So to do that, I guess I'll talk a little bit. Has anyone ever used TouchDesigner before? Nice. That's great. No, this is perfect. So I'm gonna be very like basic with what I'm saying. The TouchDesigner is like my new favorite program. It's a visual coding program, and the way it basically works is you get a lot of these nodes. Yeah, you can see that. Okay, great. So you have these like boxes, and you drag lines between the boxes. And it's a lot easier than writing a bunch of words, because a bunch of words get really confusing. It's hard to fix. But here where you have an error, you can see exactly where the error is, and it's a lot more easy to tell what's going on. So this program works really well with visuals, not super well with audio. So what I do is I use Ableton Live, and I combine the two together, because Ableton is way better for audio. But this program is really good for visuals, and it's also really good for data, and I'll get into that a little bit later. So let's see. Okay, yeah, we'll start from hand detection. So TouchDesigner is a free program, and I saw a YouTube video by this guy, Blankensmithing, and he talks about using this program called MediaPipe, and MediaPipe is a machine learning model that detects hands, faces, objects, all this stuff, and you import it into TouchDesigner for completely free. And I've been using that. And so the way it works is you take your hand here, and let's see if nice. So you have all these data points from where you move your hand, and it's seeing my face right now as well, which I could use. And as I move my hand across, I have these red dots, and each of these red dots is equal to a X and Y coordinate on a screen. It's very mathy. And you kind of get way too much data. And this is the entire thing, and as I hold up my hand, you can see everything's kind of moving around a little bit. This is pretty hard to work with. It's a lot of too much stuff. So I spent a while creating what I call guardrails. And what those are is just creating parameters for what I want to create music with. So for instance, I have something called index close. And what that does is it's a data value right here. And as I close my index finger, it goes down. And the way I did that is I took the Y value of the top and the Y value of the bottom, subtracted them. But I don't have to get super into that. But I have all these parameters, basically, that I can use as data. So if I go back out here, let's say, so for this little demo, I have these like particle system, and let's see if this, nice, okay. So I have this particle system that I created that kind of just generates particles off my hands and swirls them in weird directions. And then I found this sound on Ableton. It's just like a stock, I don't know, audio file somewhere, and it's like kind of reminds me of the ocean. So I was like, okay, this is kind of like an ocean type of theme. And the way I go about thinking about stuff is I have this sound and I have the connection of the visuals and the sound, but how do I add movement to it? And the way I think about that is I say, okay, what gesture do I want to make and what sound do I want to like edit using that gesture? So to me, if I hear this sound, I want to raise my hand and I want it to go shh, and I want the like water level to rise and to feel this like swelling effect. So the way I go about doing that is I have my data here. So I'm taking my Y value of my hand. So you can kind of see here as I raise my hand up, we get this bar going from 0 to 1, which is great. We already have a value that I can use. However, Ableton, when I go over to Ableton over here, I want to edit a filter down here. Yeah, you can see that. And I want this filter to kind of make this type of swelling sound. And this value, I have found, takes a value from between 0 and 127. So what I need to do is I need to send it to a math node. And this is what's really easy. It's kind of a little bit self-explanatory. Well, not super, but I say, okay, it starts at range 0 to 1, which is the data point that I have here. And I want it to go from range 75 to 127, because I don't want to go all the way to 0. I want to start somewhere in the middle. And so now I have this value right in here that goes from 75 to 127. So I can use that in Ableton. And then this is, I don't have to get too much into this, but it's in TouchDesigner, it's good practice to use a null. It's like a nothing burger. And it just, it just like makes sure that like things don't like mess up when you like change something else in the program. So I'm going to send it to this like box I have in Ableton. And this basically communicates with Ableton through UDP messages. And it sends data back and forth. And I say, okay, I have this value here. And this is now connected to my filter. And if I want to program this, I can take this value and I can plug it into here. And now I have a change when I move my hand up. And that's great and all, but that's just sound. I want to edit the visuals as well. I want the visuals to kind of feel how the sound is feeling. So I'm taking this stock feedback edge plugin, and what this is doing is it's kind of like swirling it up. So you can kind of see that's what's going on as it increases. And this value goes from 0 to 1. So I can take the earlier value that I took there and plug that in there. And now I have this double of the bass sound and audio and visuals. And as I move my hand up, I get this swelling in the visual effect and in the audio effect. And that's just in general, like what I'm trying to go for is this connection between movement, and in this case just hand movement, but it can be any type of movement. It could be face movement, it could be body movement, and sound and visuals. Let's see, did I miss anything? Not a lot, okay. So that means, are there any questions? Thank you. No questions? You can find what I do at Zonk_music on Instagram. And I guess I'd talk very briefly. My goal for the future, what I'm trying to get into more is, this is like a solo thing. This is just me doing this, but I want to be able to collaborate with people, and I want to especially work with people who dance to create movement, to create music from movement. Instead of matching the dancing to the music, I want to match the music to the dancing and see how that works. So if anyone dances or knows anyone who dances, let me know. Or just in general, come up and talk to me. I'd love to talk about anything. Thank you, guys. Yes?
So did you just have like the constant piano track in the background, and then with each new like controller you just change the parameters as it went?
Yeah, so on Ableton I have in my, maybe it's hard to see, but I have like a pseudo DJ deck, and I'm playing one song on that deck, and then overall in a group, it's like all selected in a group, and I have all these plugins, and those plugins are affected by Um, like things like this, right? As I move my hand up, you can kind of see like this value is changing. It's going up as I go up. Yes?
I want to know more about it's not actually pausing time, but it kind of feels like it's pausing time without the pause time effect. Or maybe it's like you move your hand further away.
Yeah.
And then everything kind of slows. And it's like part of the track is still there, but like I want to know how you did that specifically.
I don't have a great explanation for that. It's this question mark. It's triple question marks. And for some reason, when I added that to the piano track, it sounded like it stopped time. And so what I did is actually, I guess that's a good lead. I emphasized that point instead of taking away from it. I said, what if I slowed down the particles? And I think as you see the particles slowing down, you believe that time is stopping, even though it's just like an effect being applied onto it. I think it's just a lot of reverb and delay, is my guess. It actually doesn't. It just cuts out all the dry and then only adds wet, and then I just bring it back at the right time so it sounds good.
I have a quick question about, because the only thing that kind of puts me off of TouchDesigner is like all the math and coding. I am terrible with that, but the nodes make it better, but also still it's just so like convoluted. And I saw you explained a little bit of how you kind of condensed that down, but do you mind going into more detail on how you kind of make it, I guess, more digestible as a person instead of like as like a coder?
Yeah, no, that's definitely like something that's kind of hard to work with. There's a lot. I mean, you can kind of see the possibilities are pretty endless. And when you look at this, it's like, oh my God, like what is happening here? There's like 7 billion, like each one of these is like a block that you can put in. But realistically, like most of my projects use like in the data portion, which is the green portion, which is like the coding portion. I think it's like the one that's like a little bit harder to understand. I only use probably about like 10 of these. And so I think it's like finding ones that like work for your situation. Like for instance, like select is great because if you have like a list of a lot of things, you can select one of them. Or like math is like a really great one because if you want to change a value, it's like, it allows you to do like easy math without having to like mess around with like, what do I divide this by? What do I multiply this by? But I don't know. I think TouchDesigner is interesting. I would say has a steep barrier to entry. It's like a steep learning curve, but it's a very fast steep learning curve. If you get over the first initial portion, and you kind of settle into a groove, everything like adding like one more thing, it becomes like a lot easier. So it's like, you have to like persevere, I guess, for the first month of like learning this for me was like, oh my God, what is going on? I don't understand any of this. And then at some point it just clicked and I was like, oh wait, I can like do all these things with it. I can like solve all these problems that I had no idea I like could solve. I don't know if that answers your question at all. Yeah. But like that, like my hand here. This was like a like in the plugin that this guy made, it takes your data and it converts it into like a 3D render basically. And so I'm using that 3D render and I'm applying like I think one effect to it. I don't know where I'm doing that, but let's see. Oh, it's in here. I see. I guess I was just curious. Yeah. Why you chose specific, the simpler parameters. Like, were those for your specific use case, or was this like a TouchDesigner thing? In here. Yeah. This was like the first time I like kind of created something. I made a version of this, and I found it really, really helpful, because when you look at like a huge list of things, it gets really confusing. And to me, I was like, okay, I'm gonna spend a couple of hours of my time just like grinding this and like making it like having all these parameters. And now it's like when I want to create something new, it's like, oh, I have this already ready. I don't have to like do this stuff. And TouchDesigner is really nice for that. You can set up your own like boxes to like use for later. It's like very modular in that way. Yes.
What was
Can you say that again?
Yeah, like when you go straight from like the media pipe output, like you said that you like those blocks over there, did you like are they for like reliability in the output so that you don't get like noise in your answers?
All these it's mostly just three things. It's selecting one option. So let's say I'm like selecting, let's do the index if I can find that. Yeah, index close here. So I'm selecting the like index finger, and then I'm doing some math, right? Because I want it to be like a change to a certain value, and then I set a limit, which means I'm like putting it between 0 and 1. So I'm like standardizing all the units basically, because it could be like some random values, and I want to create everything that's between 0 and 1. Yes.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Like, I was wondering, so when you're thinking about, like, you want, say, a certain hand position to, like, trigger a certain effect, like, so are you basically thinking about, like, what logic you need to consider for the parameters, and, like, so the system knows, like, because I was thinking, like, you could, like, write something so it knows you're making, like, a pointer finger, and then, but I was wondering, like, could you take it to the next level, and it's like, okay, pointer finger, but then you're, like, twirling around, and that's, like, a different dimension to the whole thing. Like, yeah, sorry, this is kind of
No,
multiple questions, but, like,
that's great.
I'd like to hear about your thought process for, like, yeah, like, I mean, this position, you could say, like, these, like, nodes are above your palm nodes, and they're spaced apart a certain amount, I guess, but
Yeah.
yeah, what's, like, your thought process with all that?
Yeah, I mean the pointer finger, I think that's a great example, right? So if I have my pointer finger on here, let's see, I can show the overlay here, so it might be helpful. So if I have my pointer finger, all I'm thinking about is, oh, look, I'm like, all I'm thinking about is data, right? And so it's like, what in this, like, these red points, like, make sure that it's a pointer finger and, like, won't randomly do it if I'm, like, waving my hand around. And so it's like, okay, for instance, like, I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking about it, like, what if, like, these all have to be straight for some, I don't know how I'd, like, detect that, but it's like, okay, maybe this index finger has to be straight, all these points, and there has to be a 90-degree angle between these 2 points. And you can kind of see, like, as I move my hands in weird ways, it, like, stops detecting them, and that's why a lot of the things I do are like this, because it's, like, easiest for the model to detect it as I go like this.
Do you think in the future you might find, like, ways to have more, like sophisticated detection, so, like, it could know it was a pointer finger in any angle or position?
There's, like, definitely, I mean, I'm not super into machine learning. I'm not in the depths of it, but it's definitely possible. And I'm using a library that's, I would say, pretty outdated. It's like, I think it's a couple years outdated, and I'm sure it's been improved upon a lot. And there's actually free tools that you can make your own lightweight machine learning model to detect, like, certain poses. And I've been messing around a little bit with that, but I don't know how, like, exact it's really been. But it's cool, like, to think about what's possible with that type of thing.
Yeah, like, looking forward to see what you come up with.
Oh, thank you. Anything else? Yeah.
How do you manage nodes?
How do I manage nodes? That's a great question.
How do you not get lost in the spaghetti?
You know what? I'm not super great with management. I mean, you can kind of see, like, it is a bit organized, but it's a little bit crazy. I try to, like, put things in like sub boxes. So what I did, I just zoomed out. So this is, like, my, like, bigger portion, and then if I, like, go into, like, ocean demo, I, like, have my, like, sub portion. And so it's, like, it's easier if you can, like, have more and more, like, sub boxes. It's also better for the program. It'll run faster. But, like, some of my projects you can kind of see are, like, really wild. They have, like, a lot of nodes. So I'm not super great with managing nodes, and it's kind of like, it's great if I'm, like, in one session doing a lot of stuff, but if I, like, leave and come back to it, sometimes there's, like, issues with, like, understanding where everything is. But it's something I'm, like, getting better at, I would say. Okay, I can explain that really fast. Okay, so let's say I didn't have the null here, right? And I was dragging this amount to value, and I said, okay, I have this math value, and it's sending over here. And it's like, wait, but I want it to limit it at 100 max. It's like going to 127. I don't like that it's going to 127. I can't like drag a new chop and say, okay, limit at 127, because it's still, this like little gray arrow indicates that it's still taking from here. And so I'd have to like delete this, or I'd have to add this chop and then like click on this and then drag it over and then re-add it. And now it has the limit. But if I have a null, I can then just move this over and like add this to the middle. And it's kind of like a last chop that does nothing, but it kind of just stands in place in case I want to add anything at the very end. That one, so I'm using my, oh yeah, I didn't explain this. I have a gaming controller I got at a MIT Swap Fest for $2. And this controller I just use as a scene switcher, so each button just goes to a different scene. And the way I did that is the main logic is just a switch top. And what that does is I have all these values, and as I click on each one, it changes the index of it. But I had to do a little bit extra because if I have all of these running at the same time, it'll like crash my computer. So I had to, I did add a little bit of actual programming into this, so you can use Python. And what I did is I just shut down the other, shut down the other boxes as I did it. So you can kind of see they're X'd out. And if I change to a different one, it takes a little bit to switch, but it should X out this box and un-X out this box, unless oh yeah, there we go. So that's the main logic for that. But it's mainly just one switch, and I'm just changing the like input for that. Yes? Yeah, so I have this is like getting more technical, but I have a DAT, which is like the pink one, and I take this joystick input, so you can kind of see how I can like move stuff around here, and I'm getting like input, and it turns into data, and then what I do is I have a chop exec, and it just takes values from here, and it says, when these values change, do these various things. So for instance, it's like if I click on button 1, turn off all the other ones and turn on this like specific one that I want to turn on. Does that answer your question? Anything else? Sweet. Okay. I think I'm all good. Thank you guys for listening. What? Yeah. Yeah, I could throw on something real fast. Let's see. Whoa. Dude, something is happening. That's sick. I see what's happening. If anyone wants to try this, come on up. Feel free, please.
it'll start fading in your mind. Doesn't matter if you're alone. There's no rules when you're alone.
Do you want to try it? No. Yeah. All right. Thank you all. Oh, and thank you to Eventworks and for setting up this thing and inviting me. I really appreciate it.